Hello, this is Marcel, and I would like to send out a video thank you to Janos at Real World Audio and to Eduard Bruckmann, who continued to really inform everyone who is interested in HiFi about some of their tweaks and some of their findings in their endeavor to continuously improve their systems. And one of them that you might know is also about single-ended tube amplifiers. And you can see already in front of you what was my take on it. And I followed very, very closely the advice that I got from both channels, taking the electronic circuits and some tips also, which components to source and how to assemble the whole thing from Real World Audio. And some of the tips in particular, I think if Eduard is looking at it, he will probably very, very clearly recognize the inspiration that I took from him about the frame to build the amplifier onto, to have easy access to all of the different areas, and to put it into different positions also. You can see now I'm using my multimeter to shim up the whole amp so that it's at a bit more fortunate angle, so I can do a bit more filming to show you a bit what it looks like and what I've done. And I've done a couple of modifications compared to what was suggested on those two channels. And I might start just really looking at the mechanical installation and how I arrived at doing it this way and not in a different way. And there might be a couple of tips that maybe somebody else could also benefit from. And I'm very, very thankful if somebody has got some ideas and suggestions to further improve things, because I think this is really what is a very, very good thing about the community and also of the internet nowadays, that you can connect all over the world and you can be a community even though if you are thousands of kilometers away from each other. So to not really make it too long, I just really go over the layout quickly. So I think everyone who has already had a look into tube amps probably knows roughly what the layout would be. But you can see here I've got my power transformer. So this is providing the voltage supply to the tubes and also to the heating. Then we've got the first choke, which initially created a little bit of a hum until I mounted one capacitor directly in front of the first choke, which then reduced the hum. So it was mechanical vibration. It was not electronically in the amplified signal, but it was really the choke vibrating on my wooden frame. And this is one other aspect that I still want to come into. And then we've got the second choke. This is a double capacitor, which then sits behind and in between those chokes. And as mentioned, I've got now also a reasonably large, not too large capacitor, which I just really put into in the front of the first choke. Then we have got the rectifier tube directly here. I've got my power switch here. Initially I thought of really using these two stages of the switch to switch on the heating and to switch on also the full signal, so high voltage plus the heating as well. So I have a two-stage switch for it, or quickly go over the neutral position to activate both. But it seemed like just really with one on switch, it works really, really, really well. And I have to admit that I just really finished it yesterday and had a first listening to it, and it was really fantastic, but more of it later. Then I've got the power tubes, the pre-tubes, then the potentiometer, and as usual when I build amplifiers, and this is certainly not one my first build, I've probably built 20 or more amplifiers before, but usually I always put the input shunt potentiometer the wrong way around. So if you turn it up fully, it's actually totally off, and if you turn it left, you've got the full signal, so the same thing here. Nevertheless, this is easy to swap. Here we've got the output transformers, and I think most of you will already recognize it's one of those Chinese imports. Still pretty expensive, but really, really cheap compared to if you source them somewhere here in Europe. So these are the really, really big bad boys. As you can see, these are, I just really put my hand in it, and maybe I can also just grab a CD to put it next to it. So you're getting an impression about the size. So it is a really, really, really big one. Basically one of the biggest ones that I could find. It is one of those amorphous core transformers, and I intentionally dropped the impedance that I was looking for from the recommended 10K to 7K, because when I look at the output diagrams of the 1626 tubes, I think that the lower impedance is actually better suited to the characteristics of the tubes than the 10K. But up to further discussions. Right now, for the input stage, I use the 2J tubes and not the 8532, which normally should be in there, which I also have got, but I just really didn't want to waste them in case that something doesn't really quite work out well. And I think these are basically all of the components that the amplifier consists of. And now a bit more to the construction. I built a wooden frame, exactly like also Eduard did for his amplifier, and I just think it was a brilliant idea, and it makes things so easy. You can put the amplifier in kind of all positions on your bench or on the floor, like at the moment in my room here, and work on it in all kinds of positions. But now actually, and you could maybe already guess it from the layout, if I just really go out a little bit further here, that I do not want to put the amplifier horizontally on the table, but I would really like to keep it the way it is right now. So vertically standing to have a good airflow around the tubes also. So just really from the spacing you see here, the hot air is going through the center. It will affect a little bit the input tubes. The power tubes are on the outboard side, and the air will go up this way. So okay, the input tubes get a little bit of heat from below, but otherwise I think there's a very good air circulation without drilling any holes into my top plate. And the top plate actually is one other thing that I wanted to point out, where I also diverted from the suggestions, because what I thought is that normally if I would work on amplifiers, I would not very much let's say the very crude basics, like I wouldn't swap around too much the power supply, transformers or chokes, and probably also neither the output transformers. But what I would swap is, if I want to change circuits, is actually the board to which then the tubes and all of the circuitry is mounted to. And as you can already see here, I used 2mm glass fiber board, so it's fiber enforced plastics. And this has got two benefits that I see. One is that it's a true isolator, and wood, just really to repeat it and make it clear, wood is not an insulator. Wood is conductive, and it depends quite a lot on the humidity level. So I do not recommend it to use it for anything which is high voltage circuitry. It was already pointed out also by Janos and also by Eduard in their channels, and you really need to know and to take care about what you're doing, because otherwise you get in all kinds of trouble and risk your life and the life of others. So better not to do it. So back to the glass fiber board, it has got the additional advantage that it is thin. So all of the tube sockets, components, potentiometer, and also the input sockets and so on, they can be all mounted very, very easily compared to something which is like 7, 8, 10, 12, whatever millimeters of plywood or other kind of wooden material, where probably all of the holes need to be countersunk. The other thing which I try to do here, and I think you can see, I don't know if the camera really focuses, let's see if it's doing a thing or if I'm already too close, that here I've got screw fixations with rubber grommets underneath, so it is not really truly an insulation in terms of vibration and so on, but it's doing something. So it keeps some of the vibrations away. And this is also now where I would like to explain a little bit why I came to this layout for the transformers. Due to vibrations also, I try to put the transformers more towards the outboard edges, because the final plan would be to reinforce all of these edges. So the transformers would be mounted all quite rigidly to the frame. And then probably this will limit their vibration a bit. And then I've got this additional damping going on to the glass fiber boards here. And still being on the front face or on the upper face, depending on how you put the amplifier on the table. There's one thing which I would like to show you also on the transformers, which I think is very important to note, and is also a criteria for the quality of transformers and what you need to be prepared for. And this I can show you somewhere here. And I hope that you can already see what I'm trying to show you. I hope also the camera shows it properly. I think I probably need to zoom in a little bit more. I do all of this handheld. But what I think you can see is that the core here is clamped between those copper brackets by way of these screws here on each side. And you can see already here, I hope you can see, that there's a real gap forming, and that the whole plate here is bent like this. What this leads to is that the amorphous core transformers, I think this gap maybe you can see even better on here. Here you can really see that here's a gap, and here it's really pressed against the amorphous core. And what happens is that, as this is a very brittle material, you are getting very high contact forces between your copper-coated frames and the core, and that leads to cracks in your amorphous cores, which is certainly not something that you would want to have, because the whole point of having these amorphous cores is that you don't have cracks and really nice magnetic flow within the materials. I don't know if I can find or if I can show something, because in some areas you could see even also some cracks, but I think it's very difficult to see. But I just really want to make you aware that if you buy some cheap stuff, even though this is anything else than cheap, maybe I'll find something here. I think here you maybe can see a little bit. Here, just really above the screw, here, just really on this corner, you can see that the whole, that is a bit crack. There's a bit of a crack. I think probably on camera it's very difficult to see, because it's also quite thick coated with some plastic insulation or whatever material. And this makes it even harder to really see what I'm trying to explain. But I think you can guess it, that if you do clamp this very, very hard, you see maybe here, if you just really watch along the line of the top of the transformer, what I'm trying to say, that there's really this gap, and it's clamped very, very hard on the edges of the core, at the front, at the back, and this is where then the core starts to crack. And I looked at some pictures also on the internet when these kind of transformers are advertised, and I saw it on all of them. They were all done the same. So it seems like nobody is using a torque wrench or anything like that to just really, or is instructed to do so, to not really do any damage to the cores. So something that you need to be prepared for, and something that is probably a bit more critical if you really go to the smaller cores. So this just really as some advice or some findings, let's say. At the moment, on my side here, the terminals, they are just really, let's say, quickly soldered on. And it's some 4mm connectors that I'm currently using. They're not really supported, so usually they are drilled into the board and then are a little bit more solid to connect to. And if we now quickly come to the back of the transformer, sorry, I'm doing this all handheld, and I've got no, how you say, I've got not much of an interest to do a Spielberg movie here, but just really to transfer some information back to you. So you can see the bottom of the wooden plate being cut out with the glass fiber board on top, and the not very clean layout of the circuitry right now. So I just anyway try to have kind of a star grounding. So any kind of connectors, it's really just all point-to-point connectors. And of course, if you're working with high voltage, always good. Regardless how quickly the capacitors discharge, to have a voltmeter permanently almost connected to it. Then all of the wires are twisted for as good as it gets into all of the different areas. And especially now, as I also followed the recommendation of Janos regarding the power transformer. So this is a Hammond. I think it's a 370KX, I think it was. But otherwise, look it up at his very informative internet page, and you'll find the exact spec. This one does not have the 12.6 volts of heater voltage or to supply the power tubes. So what I've done is, and probably I'll get some beating for it, and very likely also quite justified, I took one of those cheap switching power supplies. I'm already laughing because I could imagine what especially Janos will think about it. And this one has got the 12 volts, but most of you know probably that, I think I try maybe to turn it a little bit around. Now it just really dropped from from my voltmeter at the front. That you see that there's a small little potentiometer here, and this can be used to fine-tune the voltage. And I checked it on another power supply, and the voltage adjustment is, let's say, maybe plus minus 1 or 2 volts on a 12 volt supply. So very, very easy to get to 12.6. I actually kept it a little bit lower to maybe stress the tubes a little bit less. And the other thing which I found, where I had some big doubts, is that the power supply would not even turn on because it through the heater wires it might detect a short circuit, because once the heaters are cold, of course they've got very, very little resistance, which means like it might think that there's a short circuit and doesn't really switch on, but it works fine. And to maybe try to stay away from trouble, I even picked a 10 ampere power supply, which is far more than you would need for the amplifier, just really to have a chance that it actually really switches on. So this is now the state of the power amplifier, the small little pure darling, and my take on it. For the capacitors, maybe just one thing here. You can see that there are only two capacitors, one for each channel for the input signal, and these are some glass sealed oil paper Russian style capacitors. I got a batch of them. It's 160 volts and 1 microfarad, and I think I paid less than €1 for it, and they were brand new. Brand new, never used, let's call it. Brand new, maybe not, they probably have been 40 years old or so. But I checked the capacity and I also checked the sound, and they work fantastically. I think they are really nice ones. Also in comparison to the Mundorf Evos, the paper oil ones, they are absolutely on par, at least the ones which I've got, and according to my ears. So I think this is some inspiration which I took from the internet pages, and maybe it's already very long, like most of the other videos also, but there's maybe also a lot to talk about. Couple very quick run through some of the other things that I'm currently running. I think I maybe mentioned it initially, maybe I didn't mention it, but I'm not really entirely new to the hi-fi or high-end scene. For me, it started more than 40 years ago, rather than almost 45 years, I would think at least. And can just really have a look at my system right now. So there was a long stop of hi-fi in the mid-time, and in the recent times especially, where my hi-fi system was basically more and more step-by-step downgraded to make it a bit easier to live with what I had up until this point, which I can also just quickly show you. But what I've got right now here is, I really like the quad stuff. So here I've got some preamplifier and also the radio. By the way, here in Germany we've got still some analog radio broadcast, and the quality is absolutely awesome. It's fantastic, incredible, and so much underrated. I don't understand why there's no audiophiles which are listening to it or mentioning it or referring to it. I'm absolutely a fan of the analog radio broadcast that we still have got here in Germany. So here again some quad stuff that I'm using. Then here at the bottom, these are the corresponding power amplifiers, the quad 2s. Of course, all of this pretty modified and not really actually anymore the way it used to be. Similarly, you can see also here my musical fidelity class A amplifier. And this one I think fits quite nice to the picture, because basically each channel contains of two bridged single-ended monoblocks. And I think this is a bit unique in terms of solid-state power amplifiers. And you can see also how I mounted it, because this I found was far superior to any other method in trying to keep this bloody thing cold. Everybody knows that you can almost cook some eggs on it. So what I've done very easy is there are some end caps, and I removed the end caps, so it's open here at the very bottom. I mounted it vertically, and then I just really reversed. So I just really, whoops, you can see my hands. So I just really took the top plate and I just flipped it over to the other side, and used the same screw holes to mount into the amp again, and then just really overlapped it with my small little table here. So I've got a really nice airflow pulling from the bottom to the top, and I think the whole thing is at least 10 degrees colder. I did some measurements, and to me it works really nice. No other modification than this one. So maybe quickly also just really to the speakers that I'm currently listening to. Here, these are some two-way speakers, really simple. There's some, I think now the contrast doesn't work, but this is a Harwood air motion transformer, very small one, like 50 euro or so, and a wave core. I think I've written down the description here. Maybe you can read it also. It is, what is it? WF152BD10. I found them to be really nice. Have got a quite high crossover frequency, maybe a little bit above 3K. And this is currently my rather primitive frequency divider. And yeah, you can see there's always a lot of potential where you can still work on, but actually those were supposed to be my office speakers, and my real system I can show you a bit later. This is something I just really also picked up, really nice mono amp, 807 tubes, and you can guess already, especially Janos, maybe get some idea what this might be good for. Also looking at the wire, he might recognize something that he has probably seen somewhere else before as well. So big thank you for this one also. And of course this will be something like Lancelotish, you can say. So a lot of crap still lying around here. I've got another musical fidelity. This is an old quad system, still very old. I think this is actually at the end of the 50s, and this one was built. All still mono, some brown stuff. Then my other brown audio, integrated stereo, you can say. And probably this is what you know also, and you can already think, looking at the description of the speaker, what might be next in line. Actually, I wanted to do this on the weekend already. So something omnidirectional petite is what I've got in mind. A lot of records piled up somewhere, everywhere in the house, and maybe I can just quickly show you also what was my old system. And to this I need to go over to my dungeon. So I just really quickly walk over, and maybe I can show you the remainings of what it used to be. So here you can see what is my old speaker that I used to up until not too long, already a couple of years ago. So it was an open baffle, you can see already, quite a large one. So it's probably 2 meters tall roughly. And it has got two 12-inch woofers at the top, two 12-inch woofers at the bottom, and then I think here you can barely see any of this. It has got some teal ceramic mid-range and a tweeter as well. And for the tweeter I did a couple of changes. Here I think installed is now the 20mm one, but I very much also liked the 40mm one. I could never really decide on which one is best, so I just really kept swapping them. And I haven't really shown my record player, but here I still have got some remainings of what my Riga Plana 3, which I bought from new, also was upgraded to. The C40 ceramic one, and also some wideband Philips speakers, which I've got right now. I think I've got 1 minute left until my camera dies, so I just really quickly go back to the record player, because there's something that I wanted to show you as well quickly. Okay, here also a bit my own phono pre-stage MC. Works fantastically. I'm super happy with that thing. Runs on batteries, so no problem with networks or with pollution of the networks. Then for my vintage system, I've got some really nice buddies here. Pickering mono cartridges, new old stock. And finally, the last one, Janos, that I just really wanted to show. Hopefully you are watching. You can maybe guess what this was. I hope, at least, if the camera focuses. So that was something which I did maybe like 20 years ago. So big thank you to all of you. Great work. And I like having this community. So ciao and see you next time.